Gladiator was released back in 2000 and was directed by Ridley Scott and stars Russell Crowe, Joaquin Phoenix, Connie Nielsen, and Oliver Reed, and tells the story of Maximus, a Roman general that is tasked by the Emperor of Rome, Marcus Aurelius, into being Rome's next leader. However, in a fit of rage, the Emperor's son, Commodus, kills his father and then sends out men to kill Maximus and his entire family. Maximus is soon sent into slavery where he becomes a gladiator and soon works up the ranks until he enters the Colosseum at Rome and comes face to face with Emperor Commodus. Gladiator is a 5-time Oscar winner, winning Best Picture, and has been considered by many to be one of their favorite movies of all time, one of the greatest movies of all time for a lot of people. It's very popular. It's considered to be one of Ridley Scott's best films, if not his best film, and I find it a tad overrated. Now, there's a ton of people that love this film. If you look on IMDb, it is up there among like one of the best films ever made for a ton of people. Tons of people love this film, and I'm glad that they do, because I still really like this film, but I do agree with the majority of critics that find this movie to be good, but not particularly great. It doesn't break anything new in terms of storytelling, but what it does give us is a really interesting look into Roman culture, and it brings back the historical epic in a new, interesting, and flashy way. And why this film is remembered as well as it is because of this contribution to film. Gladiator came out at a time where the historical epic had basically gone away and died for nearly 30 years. Sure, there were other films that came out during that time, such as Braveheart and Titanic, but none of them were really compared to those epics at that time frame in the 50s and 60s. However, this was, and this is responsible for bringing back the epic into the fold. And because of this film, we got a bunch of releases after 2000 with movies such as Alexander, Troy, Kingdom of Heaven, The Last Samurai. The epic had been resurrected, and there was this familiarity that people were having with Roman and Greek culture, and people wanted to learn more. Because of this, we got shows such as Rome on HBO, which is one of my favorite shows of all time. So, you know, as much as I think that this film's a little overrated, I cannot deny the importance that it has had on the industry at large. So anyway, why do I find this film overrated? Now, as I said, overrated does not mean I think this movie is bad. I do not think that at all. In fact, I really do enjoy this film a lot. But I don't love it like a lot of people I know do. Let me start out with my positives with this film. I love the look of this film. The cinematography is on point. The beautiful look of Rome is absolutely there. The cinematography just captures it so beautifully in crystal HD for my Blu-ray, and it's incredible. The stuff that they are able to put onto camera, you really feel like you are inside Rome. You feel that you are in the Colosseum, and you feel that you are in these battles, which are extremely visceral and violent. The opening battle scene in this movie is absolutely fantastic to watch, and it's extremely messy and violent, and I just absolutely love it. But also the gladiatorial scenes are absolutely amazing to witness and are so visceral and really fun to watch, and just, it's really enjoyable, and it really shows how technology has increased and how the language of film has changed over the years to make these scenes so damn exciting. And also, I actually really like the color palette of this film. It's a much grayer, kind of monotone color. I mean, the film is kind of dark and grim, and oftentimes I don't particularly like it when films are really dark and everything, because I think that takes away from some of the beauty of filmmaking by not showing us these beautiful, wonderful colors, by showing this grim world of Rome. But I think it works in this movie because it is a very grim story, and we see through the coloring in the film that Rome is in a pretty dark place at this moment, and it's only through the Colosseum that things start to become brighter in the film. The colors are lusher and brighter, and it is really interesting that we see this coldness that Rome has become, but Rome is alive in the Colosseum, and I think that is really, really cool. And also, I have to give it up for the soundtrack in this film. The film was composed by none other than Hans Zimmer himself, along with Lisa Gerrard, who lends her vocals to the soundtrack, and this soundtrack is absolutely amazing. If not a little familiar, because a couple years later, Hans Zimmer would do the Pirates of the Caribbean soundtrack, and come on, you cannot listen to this soundtrack and not hear Pirates of the Caribbean. It's still a great soundtrack nonetheless, and Lisa Gerrard's vocals to the soundtrack really bring home this emotional core to the film, especially with what she sings near the end of the film, which kind of becomes the whole anthem of the movie, and it is absolutely wonderful. It is really extremely emotional and centered, and I absolutely love it. It makes the emotional moments extremely emotional, and it makes you really feel something, especially near the end of the film. I also really like the acting in this film. For the most part, I think that Russell Crowe does a really good job of being this commanding presence as this general, especially near the beginning of the film. He can be rather lighthearted, and I do really like that, and it's really fun to see that. And also, I think he does an incredible job in the scene where he finds his wife and son crucified at their home. The emotion that he brings to the screen, I really feel it, and I feel connected to that character in that moment, as, you know, he's just slobbering with tears, and it's really, really good stuff. I also really love Oliver Reed, who is so fun in this role as Proximo, who is just a lot of fun. He brings a lot of life to the film, and I really like his conversations with Russell Crowe's character. I just think he's a fun character, and the fact that they weren't able to film all the scenes with him as Oliver Reed did pass away during the making of this film, they were able to really fiddle around with his storyline a little bit to give him a satisfying conclusion that felt right for the character, while also using some top-notch CGI that isn't overused in his shadow, and it's really good CGI, and it works really well for this movie. But the person that steals the show in this movie is, of course, Joaquin Phoenix as Commodus, who is just a great villain overall. He is so over the top in this film, but he plays it so amazingly well. You are watching this unhinged character, and you never know what he's going to do. You don't know when he's going to blow a gasket. It's just really great seeing this character work and how Joaquin Phoenix plays him. It's so much fun. Again, he is so over the top, but it makes him extremely entertaining. Now, into the stuff that I don't particularly love with the film. Again, I still really like this film, but I do have my problems with it. And one of the problems has to do with, I have a problem really connecting with anybody in this film. There is that moment early on with Russell Crowe's character, with Maximus, when he's with his family when they're, dead. And that stuff is really good. And also, I think the emotional ending is really good, but that's mostly due to the music of the film. I don't really feel anything for a lot of these characters, and I feel some of the acting is rather standard and bland at times. I think Russell Crowe kind of sleepwalks through this role at points. I mean, there's not really any charisma to him after the first little bit of this film, and I just can't connect to the character, and I can't really connect to really anybody else in the film, and that's really disappointing because I need that emotional crux. I need to care about these characters to really care about the film, and I just can't. And I know some people probably can. They're probably thinking I'm crazy saying that I can't, why can't I connect to these characters? But I just really can't. I'm missing something that's not there. Also, I feel like a lot of people don't talk about this, but I find this movie rather cheesy. I mean, some of the dialogue is just kind of laughable in a lot of ways, but what makes it work are the actors saying them. I think they do a good job of doing that. But a lot of stuff is very fist pumpy. Like, you're watching it and like you're like, yeah, he told him. It's stick it to the man kind of thing. And it's just kind of silly. And like, the speeches are kind of weird and awkward sometimes. I mean, there's some stuff that has become extremely quotable that I find kind of silly when I listen to it, even though, you know, it's said really well. But it's just one of those things that kind of takes me out of the experience a little bit. I also find that this story is rather familiar. Now, you know, I'm okay most times with stories that are familiar, but this one just feels like highlights of things that I've seen before. This feels like the Ten Commandments or Ben-Hur, with this character that is, you know, high up in the ranks and is betrayed by a brother figure and then goes into slavery or something like that and then comes back for vengeance. I mean, it's something that we've seen before, and it's not a huge problem, but they don't do enough with it to make it different or change it up a little bit, other than the time period, basically. Now, before I reviewed this film, I sat down and watched both versions of this film. If anybody doesn't know, there is the theatrical cut and the extended cut that adds a pretty hefty chunk of the film, making it closer to 3 hours. And I was wondering which version I would like more. And overall, I like both about the same, but I do think that the extended cut does add a few pretty interesting scenes to the mix. We get some more character growth with certain characters, and we see this one moment near the very end before Maximus is having his fight with Commodus. We see him have a small little conversation with a general character from earlier in the film, and it's a nice little beat, and I like those little things. I like little character moments like that, and so that's why I would say that the extended cut is probably a little bit better than the theatrically released film. But overall, I think if you're gonna watch it, I say still watch the theatrical cut. I mean, it's a little shorter, and it just streamlines things a lot better. Overall, guys, I really, really enjoyed this film. I think it is a good film. I love the battle scenes. I love the music. I love the environment. I love the production design. I love that it's an epic back in 2000, because one of my favorite genres of all time is the epic, and this movie is still going to be near and dear to my heart, but I just can't connect to it because I just don't have any connection with the characters, and I need that to really love this film. But there are plenty of things that I do love about this film, and I will praise those things until the day I die. I hope eventually, upon more rewatches and more rewatches, that I can come to love this film as much as I know a lot of people do. But till then, I think this is a really good film, but a little bit of an overrated one. With all that said, I'm going to give Gladiator a 7 out of 10. But I can say that I am thankful that this movie was made, because it gave, for me at least, my favorite movie of all time, Alexander, and also it gave us Rome. So I do think that this film has an important place in film history, nonetheless. But anyway, guys, I want to thank you for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next review.